Hello, this is Fireworks, your non-diplomatic talk show, where we say it just the way it is, no matter whose house is guard.
But there is no way for to absolutely my property. That is my tomato. You don't call me a Daniel boy.
Party issue is responsible for his killing.
All of us, we do the movement together. My food is my tomato. My food is my onions.
Hello, you're welcome to Fireworks, your non-diplomatic talk show, where we say it just the way it is, no matter whose ox is guard. My name is Esele Imodu, and with me on the top today is Comrade Peter Esele, the President General of the Trade Union Congress. Mr. Esele, thank you so much for coming on my talk.
You're welcome.
TUC and the Labour Congress. How come you disappointed Nigerians and called off the strike?
First, we did not disappoint Nigerians. Each time I hear that, I always laugh, because first thing is that I was elected by the workers. First, my primary constituency is the Nigerian worker, and which I will do with the senior. Then, if I narrow it down, it has to do with the senior staff in about 20 other industrial unions. That is my primary core responsibility, and so those are the people who give me directive.
Or what to do.
So if somebody else somewhere is looking for a holiday, because I also got some text messages of somebody telling me that he had already planned, they wants to go on holiday. That's not the basis of where we want to go on strike. If you're looking for a holiday, you take a vacation. So if my principal, who are the National Executive Council, gave me a brief that acts within certain boundaries, and if I get that brief and it says, be able to get this from the government, and if we get a commitment and something is signed, why do we have to go on strike? And we have to move National Administrative Council. But the fact is, there is a mandate that was given to me, there is a directive that was given to me. The directive was strictly on minimum wage. Someone sent me a text and said, okay, if this is what happened in Egypt, if the way we are doing is what they do in Egypt, probably Egypt will still be where they are. I said, I never got the mandate from National Executive Council to effect a regime change. The mandate I got was go there and get minimum wage. I like to compartmentalize issues, and I also like to keep my eyes on the ball.
Now, it's interesting that you got a mandate to get minimum wage, but a lot of Nigerians have said that, look, from the very moment you gave an ultimatum that you're going to go on strike, they knew you will not go on strike. They knew that you were going to cave in. They knew that you will be compromised. They knew that you'll be given money and settled out. And exactly that was what happened.
I can't stop laughing, because the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what is an industrial union or industrial practice? Even what you know as I'll call it industrial relations 101. First of all, is that you have to negotiate. Secondly, because everything we do is that we always, I don't know whether we check the dictionary meaning of the word compromise. When you go to a table to negotiate, it doesn't have to do with everything we talk about. You have been given money. You have to be. The
Nigerian compromise is you must be giving money.
Yes, that is the fact that is the Nigerian way of thinking. Does that make it the right way? That's the first thing you have to ask yourself. Does it make it the right way? That you are coming, you are saying somebody, you say you have been compromised. Compromised in what way? That you are coming ahead
with this.
Fine, that is what they will always say.
But that is the truth.
Because how do you say it is the truth? You see, that's why sometimes, no matter how good, you also have quality people in high places. People who want to serve. But as a result of all this feeling of, hey, there is always money moving around and what have you, as a result of that, you don't even have them coming in. You don't even want them to serve. So when you now do this generalization, because you believe at all times that people will always be compromised, first of all, what's the meaning of ultimatum? What's the meaning of ultimatum? When the British Airways, the fact is that everything we do, we always read everything in negative context, because we have
we find it difficult to trust our leaders.
Yes,
they've disappointed us.
But the difference is that, let me also tell you, hope is the only thing you need to have. You must also have a belief in yourself.
Now let me ask you this. Now, you called off the strike because according to you there was a compromise somewhere. But are you surprised that despite the compromise now, several governors have come out to say, look, we cannot pay? You remember there was even a governor that said, look, even if you go on strike for 1 year, I cannot pay.
That same governor, also the governor said before the election that he has capacity to pay. And then the governor now said, even if you go on strike after 1 year, then he now also came again and said, he came up again and said he can pay. So you see the inconsistency in the governor. But what we are missing is the fundamental issues of the value system of the quality of people that we elect into an office. Now, if this is where, if things are done properly, that governor automatically will never have the moral right to even answer the title governor. You see, so these are some things, we are not looking at it that way. And everything people look at, oh, Labour have to do this, Labour have to do that. It's a collective thing. And at the end of the day, you look at, sometimes we draw reference to what is happening in Egypt, in every other place. What did Labour do in Egypt? It wasn't Labour. It wasn't Labour.
But see, over time, the Labour movement have become the arrowhead of the struggle.
Yes, but the bottom line again is that you must, every one of us, a society, for any society to grow, you must have 20% base. 20% of the population must be ready for a change.
No, let me ask you, what is the position of Labour now if states refuse to pay the minimum wage?
How many states?
Do you think you'll be able to call people out for a strike?
How many states is on, do we even call people on strike? What we need to do is, first of all, how many states at the moment is on strike? Edo has been on strike, they just called it off now. We went for negotiation, we went with the entire, almost the entire National Administrative Council of the Trade Union Congress. So you can't have, you say everybody there was compromised.
It's possible.
Ordinarily, no.
Are you saying that you people sat before the governors of 36 states, sat before the federal government, and nothing exchanged hands?
Let me tell you, we did it for 7 hours.
Nothing exchanged hands?
I'm telling you nothing. For 7 hours. For 7 hours. In the River State Governor's Lodge, the only thing for that 7 hours, the only thing we got out of that place was a meal.
Now, there's this other view in town that the labor movement as we have it today, whether the TUC, the NLC, have been greatly weakened. Maybe the leadership, like you're saying that that leadership has not been compromised.
Okay, can you tell me? Can you tell me which angle? First of all, can you tell me which angle it has been weakened? No, tell me.
In the struggle,
what struggle?
In various struggles, there are retrenchment in several places, and there are economic issues to deal with. You never find the labor movement that is out to struggle to speak for the public.
Yeah. That
was not the way we used to have it.
How many, let me tell you now, how many have you have? Because what I'm telling you now is that you have to have a result. You have to have a statistics to prove what you are talking about. Let me tell you, I'm not, I once told people, I said, I was talking to addressing some people, I said, yes, the labor movement can start from the emotional, we can be emotive, but we must not stand on the emotional plane. We must also move to the intellectual angle of facts, figures, and statistics. Now, first of all, you go back, have a recap of telling me that, okay, the previous way that you were doing it, what were your success rate? Give me your success rate.
Because, why this one came up is because, now, even going into negotiation with government about the issue of minimum wage was a mistake.
How?
There was already a law. Do you go to negotiate a law?
No, we're not negotiating a law.
They call for negotiation and you agreed to go
Let
with
me give an example.
You didn't take a stand.
We took our stand. We took our stand and said you have to pay this minimum wage. If you now go ahead and at the end of the day, let me give an example. Okay, you say shut down the whole country. You tell us to also shut down Lagos? You tell us to shut down Lagos? Because if you want to call a strike, any part of the world that is saying a strike in Nigeria is successful, Lagos has to go down. There are
so why the exemption of Lagos?
Lagos has to go down, Abuja have to go down.
So why will you exempt Lagos?
As of January, Lagos was already paying 18,700. And we have to talk to the people that Lagos have to join as a result of solidarity. But in all fairness, will you say somebody who is paying 18,700 and you shut it down too?
So which means when you said you're going on a total strike, which means you never believe that it will be workable.
What we're going to do.
Let me give an example.
Let me tell you what we're going to do. What we're doing was to isolate the federal government area. Example, the ports. But we're going to take areas that we know that will isolate the areas and it will grant. How do you affect the elite? Total strike. How do you affect the elite? Let me also tell you, okay, we had a strike that is on minimum wage. How did the minimum wage go to National Assembly? How did it go? We called a strike for 3 days. We did it for 1 day. The president intervened. At the end of the day, it went to National Council of State. And that was how the bill went to National Assembly and it became a law. How did that happen? At the end of the day, people were saying, oh, this strike was not effective. They didn't feel it that much, but no plane. We just took it up. Okay, where do we hit the elite? You and I can't fly. The ordinary man does not go by plane. So we hit it, and the president got to know about it, and immediately everybody was scampering. What I'm always saying is that don't be emotional. I believe that, okay, let's have result to show. I was Pengasing president. We also had the same thing, because you always have this thing that people say that, okay, in the past life was better than where you are at the moment. But you also know that if you also now look at it, you now find out that, okay, you have more houses, you have more cars. That may not be the result. But people always have tendency of also looking at the past. You can't fault it.
The federal government, after this, it will actually stalemate now. After this quiet from both camps, refuse to implement this minimum wage, and the states refuse to implement it. What will you do? If
at the end of the day, federal government says they're not paying, I call the National Executive Council. Because at the end of the day, what you're looking at is, I'll give you an example. Somebody says, there was a negotiation I went for. The company said, okay, they want to retrench these guys. And I said, okay, fine. I'm not taking away your right to lay off. But I will make sure you take it through the process. The right process. I will went through the right process. At the end of the day, the guys were the one that we want to go. But you that is outside, the pressure that you have is that, oh, these guys have been laid off. But the guy wants to go, and after 10 years, he's going home with 40 million naira. I don't know how many, whether permanent secretary will go home with that. And the guys are coming up and say, oh, we want to take it and we want to go. But you that is outside, the picture that you see, because nobody want to declare an amount like that for you to know that this is what I'm going home with.
So you will say, for so far, you've been so successful in...
No. First thing first, we say, I consider anything I do as work in progress. I want to get better, I want to learn. I'll tell you, in all my years, I've never seen where agreements are broken. This is the first time in all my years.
This is the first time you've seen an agreement
I'm
broken.
telling you, yes, I'm telling you now that my upbringing was all in the private sector. We can negotiate for a year, but once the agreement is signed, nobody breached that agreement.
Were you surprised when,
yes,
when
I was.
it was breached?
I was. Having an agreement, I was surprised. Having the signature of the president not being respected, that you even have to discuss about the issue of minimum wage. Just before we started, I told you that minimum wage, as far as I'm concerned, took so much wear and tear that is unnecessary. I had to see the signature of the president, that we had to discuss the signature of the president, that we have to discuss something that has been signed into law. Why should you even discuss in the first place? That's another thing you also have to look at. Because first thing was, I'm asking myself, do they really know the meaning of being a president? Do they know the meaning of being a governor? Do they know the standard?
Is it the people now or the man holding that position?
Is those holding those positions? Because they don't. If you understand what it is.
They don't realize that their signature is law.
Because one thing you have to do is take, for example, you are a governor of a state. You set a standard for the 16-year-old, for the 10-year-old, for the 12-year-old. They look up to you for direction. You are what I call a light in the midst of darkness. That's what the governor is. I'm the president of TUC now.
This is a very bad sign.
Yes, I cannot walk into a place now where workers are unhappy and I cannot give them hope. I can't. That's not why I was elected. And the day I know I cannot do that, brother, I quit. You see, so when I encounter that, even in the companies where we work, when our MDs appear, we know that, okay, if they cannot do it, tell you they cannot do it. We negotiated for over a year. If even after that negotiation, you know that you cannot do it, in the present negotiation, you say you cannot do it. But when a governor now come and you all sit down, you are talking about, you are discussing law. When that same governor, we know that this minimum we are talking about, when you want to hang out in the night with whatever you are hanging out with, you can. That is just a peanut.